Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Gyro. Today I'm offering you finally my full build for Summon Raging Spirits Necromancer, simplified version of the build based on lovely K's Summon Raging Spirits build, the one that I have previewed for you a few days ago. If you haven't seen that preview, please take a look at it because I'm going to save you the time in this video and not rave on and on and on about what's good about this build. A lot of things are very good about this build, so let's jump straight into the instructions of how to build it. You start early on in Lion's Eye Watch, and around level 4 you will get a Raging Spirit, Summon Raging Spirit spell. And, spoiler alert, it is pretty obvious that it becomes your staple ability, it becomes your main thing, the one that you're going to be using throughout the gameplay. This is lovely because it's not like some of those builds where you have to wait even until level 12 or until level 28 Sun Encampment when you get some other kind of things like Winter Orb or some other kind of abilities that you are not going to see until later in the game, so to speak. Here, you start the game with Raging Spirits, you start the game with zombies. It's very straightforward and very, very simple to build. It's the simplest build, probably even among the summoner builds, it's one of the simplest builds, and it's one of the most powerful ones. That's why I absolutely love it. So let's take a look at the passive skill tree, exactly how I suggest that you are going to be building this witch. It's obviously a witch, and it's going to be a Necromancer Ascendancy. In case you're very, very new, I will repeat this very obvious fact. So, we are going to start as a witch. We are going to move straight up here towards the Arcanist Dominion node, because it generally makes you a little bit stronger, gives you spell damage, gives you intelligence, and Raging Spirits are qualified as a spell, among other things, as well as a minion. I also recommend that you straight away go at the very least until the notable Heart and Soul, because it gives you quite a bit more life and quite a bit of mana. We will need mana, my friends. And then we are going towards Enduring Bond, which is boosting our minions. Finally, we start investing into minions, as well as Lord of the Dead. Lord of the Dead gives you extra zombies. We are not going to be using skeletons in this build, but this is obviously a very good thing. Further on, we're going towards the left-hand side of this passive skill tree, towards this fork in the road, and I suggest that you take a couple of notables here to solidify your minions and yourself a little bit more. Retribution is a good node. I would arguably go even to Discipline and Training, giving myself a little bit more extra life to be a bit sturdier straight away early on, and Sanctity and so on and so forth. But that is, we're going to continue this journey downward in the passive skill tree a little later. I would take Discipline and Training, then I would retrace my steps a tiny bit and start moving here towards the left-hand side further. I would take Sacrifice, because increased maximum life and regeneration for you and for minions is very, very good. Spiritual Command, increasing attack speed and cast speed of minions, is very, very good as well. We're proceeding here, increasing our life, because let's not forget we need to be as fat as we can be for this particular build. I would first skip this cluster of nodes of the Reservation Mastery. I would first fill out this branch, and then I would come back to it. That is what I would personally do, but if you would like just a linear kind of progression, honestly, my friend, there is no issue with you simply following this pattern, this kind of path, well, Path of Exile, and filling everything out on your way. I just think that giving you extra auras and extra Reservation Mastery, obviously you would benefit from this to fit more auras into this build. I recommend that you come back to it after you have filled out kind of more obvious nodes, your health and minion strength, your health and minion strength. That is what I suggest that you prioritize. So Righteous Army, Redemption are very good nodes. I have spoken about this jewel, Fortress Covenant, in my preview video for this build, but I'm going to repeat myself here very quickly. Fortress Covenant is an expensive jewel. It's one of those things that by our beginners and casuals, as all my builds are for beginners and casuals, I generally try and keep my builds under 20 Chaos Orbs. That's why I never probably reach tier 16 maps and so on and so forth. Fortress Covenant costs at the moment of recording of this video between 44 and 45 Chaos Orbs on the community market. It is quite a bit, it's very expensive. It pushes the price of the build immediately quite high up. So I recommend it. I think it's a good jewel. If you want to push further into the end game, it will make a difference. But I got it for free. I simply was lucky enough for it to drop for me. So for me, this was a free addition for my build. And I have placed it here very smartly into this secluded area, if you like. Because as you can see in the description, Fortress Covenant gives also converts other notable points here on the tree into a negative. Minions take 20% increased damage. So see all these: endurance, devotion, faith and steel, everything got converted into minions take increased damage. So you cannot take advantage of these nodes. Hence, you need to find a place on the passive skill tree where you can stick this in and not lose too much. Yeah, so obviously for min maxes that is still a substantial loss, especially the loss of devotion. It used to be giving you extra health, it used to be making you stronger. Well, my friends, you have to find a place and you have to find trade-offs. Now we will continue our journey downward here, because the build stretches quite a little bit down further here, because we would like to continue relying on our armor. This is an armor and health based build, armor, block, chance, health. Yeah. So in this particular case, we will go towards armor mastery, taking combat stamina, which increases maximum life, increases armor, and you regenerate life. All of that is good stuff. We also will be relying on determination aura as our first aura, the one that we're going to be using for survivability. You're going to start using it as soon as you get hold of that gem, and having 25% increased mana reservation efficiency for determination is a massive help for our mana pool. Then obviously we will also go for shield mastery. It especially becomes good when you get a good shield with a high block chance. So this flat out increases the blocking attack damage chance per 5% chance to block on equipped shield. Sanctuary is also a very, very good node, because it's not just about block, but it's also about boosting and keeping up with the elemental resistances. As you level through the campaign, as you know, we fight Kitava twice. After Act 10, you will be minus 60 of all elemental resistances after Kitava kind of curses you a couple of times. So we need to definitely keep up with that. Please understand that this is something that you cannot forget. Tireless is increasing maximum life, reducing cost of skills. There is nothing else to say about that. And then we are proceeding here, increasing physical damage, which perhaps is not a very direct kind of benefit for us. We are going towards Heart of the Warrior, increasing maximum life, yeah, and we're going towards Warrior's Blood to regenerate life per second. And I took Diamond Skin. So this is just my thing of how I keep up with elemental resistances loss. You might choose something else, you might be lucky with slightly different gear, slightly different balancing of stats, but this is how I went about it. Now, I am also taking Grave Pact, increasing the minion accuracy rating and giving them a chance to deal double damage. And I am taking one more at the moment at level 77, which is level 77. I am taking one more jewel socket. This is not the best jewel, not by a long shot, but it increases the damage that my minions deal. So how bad can it be, right? My plan going forward, and a vector for you, my friends, is to fill out some of the more minor, so less urgent, but still impactful nodes that give you extra life. So once you take this life, this life, this life, this life, you get another 20% of life added to your life pool. And you will see very shortly when we start looking at the items of the build, you will see why this is important. It is very, very important. So these four will give us 20% of life. That's a lot. Additionally, if you noticed very quickly here, I skipped this trio of nodes to regenerate mana and have a little bit of an increase of life, and specifically the quick recovery node. I didn't think that it was absolutely critical, even though right now, at the tail end of this build, as I'm level 77, I do think that I am going to extend there and pick these nodes, and I recommend that that is something for you as well to do. Now, the top part of this build, not to be forgotten kind of here, obviously, I took Firewalker not to increase fire damage, even though my Raging Spirits do fire damage, so 25% is great. But I took it because my personal fire resistance was lacking in my setup, in my stats of my gear. For you, it may or may not be necessary, but take a closer look. For you, Firewalker gives plus 15 to that gap of fire resistance in my case. I needed it. You might not. We have taken Lord of the Dead early on, very early on. I have invested into Mystic Bulwark. Mystic Bulwark is a very necessary notable, I would say. It increases your chance to block spell damage, and that 6% might save your life at some point. I took the right hand side of this and Prodigal Perfection. I do not say that that is required. I in fact don't think that it's required for this particular build, but why I did it? I did it because the build had struggles with mana, as I reported in the preview of this build. So I have taken this because 20% increased maximum mana gave me extra like 50, 100 points of mana, which was exactly required for that extra cast of Raging Spirits that I could do without running out of mana. So it was important to me. If you find a different way to solve your mana problems, please let me know in the comments down below, and please feel free to modify this little edge here, little branch. Maybe you'll invest into extra block chance, extra survivability, extra layers of health instead. And here, obviously, Cruel Preparation speaks for itself, gives elemental resistances, and gives you extra life. And as far as Life Mastery is concerned, I've taken increased maximum life by 10% more and reduced life recovery rate. If we take a look at exactly what's happening with the life pool here for me, my total life pool is close to 4,000 right now with this fairly mediocre, fairly casual build gear, which I'll show to you in a minute, and 30% of it is reserved because I'm using a particular wand, which you do not have to use, but you will see in a minute it gives you a massive amount of power. And I think up to where I play, which is at the moment tier 7 and tier 8 maps, which is nothing to sneeze at for a casual and beginner, I would say, I think that this is a pretty decent level of life and pretty decent trade-off, which doesn't make me die far too often. Happened a couple of times from very unavoidable massive slams that I survived, but in that case it's not a tank build. I'm tired of repeating it, but I'll repeat it again. It is not a tank build, which is why you will die if RNG is not in your favor, you didn't block spell damage, and you were standing there right there and the slam went right into you. Happens to the best of us, as they say, unless you're a tank build. So this is it for the passive skill tree. Ascendancy, very quickly, I'll show to you this. Ascendancy, you are a witch, you ascend as Necromancer. At level 33 you take Mindless Aggression, at level 55 you take Unnatural Strength. Alternatively, if you are not feeling like you're lacking damage, if you also manage to get Fortress Covenant Jewel, if you manage to get Midnight Bargain Wand, if you manage to get kind of massive boosters of your damage, then you possibly could go right instead. You could go towards Bone Barrier, which gives you Bone Armor skill, unfortunately sharing cooldown with the other god skills, so there is certain usability implications to this skill being woven into your walk, just passive walking around, but it does give you quite a bit of extra life, essentially life pool, and that extra barrier is something that probably will save your life more often. You will die less, but it will take you longer to kill enemies. So maybe this is something that you might want to consider instead. I went here first, and I also took Command of Darkness for obvious reasons, increased damage and massive increase to elemental resistances. So this goes without saying. First I took this, second I took Command of Darkness, third I took this, Unnatural Strength, and fourth I'm planning to, as soon as I get Offering to the Goddess, I haven't yet, I'm level 77, technically speaking, that fourth go through the labyrinth should open at 75, at level 75. I still haven't gotten it yet, but this is where I'm going to go Bone Barrier. And that's as far as the Ascendancy is concerned. Now, items, very important. Again, this is a casual, beginner-friendly, cheap, and not super high-end game optimized build that does fantastically well for about tier 7, tier 8 at the moment of recording of this video. So it is both about gems and it is both about items. In my wand is Midnight Bargain. Midnight Bargain massively increases minion damage and gives you extra zombies, extra specters. In this build we are running zombies, specters and summoning Raging Spirits. I also run Chaos Golem. Chaos Golem is optional. I simply had an extra slot. It is not particularly optimized. Golem is not particularly boosted or anything for that matter. But Chaos Golem gives extra life to my minions, which is good, and gives a little bit of extra physical protection for me, so which is good as well. So Midnight Bargain in this particular case increases movement speed, increases damage of zombies, but as I already mentioned in the passive skill tree review, it also reserves 30% of life, which is a lot. It is quite a lot, but again, for my purposes, at this level of the game, I think it is a fun, very cheap wand, 1 Chaos Orb on community market that gives you more than it takes away. Let me put it that way. I think it gives you more than it takes away. This is an important ring. It also costs 1 Chaos Orb. You probably will need to buy it straight away from the community market. Praxis ring, essentially, you need it to avoid mana problems. I run into mana problems simply because I reserved 99% of my mana with auras. But overall, if you want to have no problems with mana, buy this ring, thank me later, no extra questions are required. I'm using Hypnotic Talons as the bronze scale gauntlets, not optimized, but as you can see, rather good kind of layout here for extra armor, extra cold resistance, regeneration of life, and my minions deal 20% increased damage, which is quite a lot. What do I have in here? I have Determination Aura, I have Chaos Golem here, I have Second Wind support for Flame Dash. Second Wind support supports Flame Dash. Flame Dash is my movement skill, which basically gives a fourth charge to Flame Dash. It is very, very welcome. For my helmet, I'm using Skull Head, another 1 Chaos Orb, cheap item that gives you extra life, you extra mana, you extra resistances, and makes your minions stronger. Do I need to say more? It's probably the best budget-friendly item for minion builds, full stop. I would love to hear your opinion on that in the comments down below if you disagree. If you disagree, I would always love to hear why, as long as it's constructive. Now, cast when damage taken support, I use it in pretty much all of my builds with very, very few exceptions. You keep this spell at level 1 so that the amount of damage you need to take before it gets triggered stays as low as possible. Level 1. It invokes Immortal Call, which cannot be higher than level 3 in order for it to stay under level 38. So this under level 3, it requires level 38, as you can see from the description, so that Immortal Call of level 1 can continue invoking it. It's very important. If you break that, it will stop working, and you will be wondering why. Increased duration support gives us a tiny bit of a longer duration on Immortal Call effect. So as you can see, that base duration is 1 second. Instead, it gives us a little longer of that protection of reduction of physical damage taken and elemental damage taken. This could save your life. And Molten Shell also needs to be kept under requirement of level 36, because this is a good Immortal Call invoked also thing that creates a little buff on you, and the damage from hits will be taken from that buff before life or energy shield, which is good. It relies on armor. The higher your armor, the stronger Molten Shell will be. Most important part of this build obviously is the gem cluster supporting Raging Spirits. You will need to invest, and this is where your biggest investment, I suppose, of Chaos Orbs will be, between 8 and 10 Chaos Orbs, probably for a 6 socket linked item. In my case, it's again not super optimized, but it's okay, it's not terrible. I was leveling with Tabula Rasa, which I had again just found somewhere, so it was free for me, but then I spent 8 Chaos Orbs and I bought this. I have Raging Spirit, Summon Raging Spirit. I have minion damage support, I have combustion support, I have unleash support, so that in one cast, we summon multiple Raging Spirits with one cast. That is very, very important as well for efficiency, otherwise you'll be clicking there forever. Then we have Predator support in order to signal the rares and uniques. We signal to the prey, and first of all minions then swarm on that particular enemy. And as you can see, at level 18, not fully level gem yet, but the minions will deal almost 23%, like almost 25%, like almost, it's 23% more damage to the prey. That's a lot. That is a lot. You absolutely want that on boss fights, let me tell you. And multi-strike support is something that lets the skill repeat a couple of times, because the Raging Spirits, they attack in melee. They are considered to be melee thing. They are not just a spell cast. And they do... this results in a lot more single target damage. I am still using Belt of the Deceiver for elemental resistances, intimidation of close enemies, increased maximum life, and increase of global physical damage, and plus extra balance of strength. It is not bad. It is not bad but that doesn't mean that it's particularly amazingly good. But again, I found this belt, you probably will either find it too, it's fairly common, it drops all the time, or you will buy it for under 1 Chaos Orb, I imagine. Important part of this build are replica bones of Uller shoes, silk slippers, and these ones, most importantly, they basically give summon raging spirits a chance to refresh their duration when they hit a unique enemy. In essence, what it means is that you will need to do less casts of raging spirits when fighting a boss. They will be refreshing their own duration. It allows you to move around instead of continuing to cast while they expire, that kind of stuff. So that's really not bad. That's really not bad. The shield is a bit of shameful here. It's not optimized. I was pushing for increase of maximum life. Of course, you can do a lot of other things, but it's not horrible, I suppose. For cheap and cheerful, it's high on elemental resistances. It gives focused cold resistance, focused lightning resistance, plus 16 to all elemental resistance, plus extra life, quite a lot. What is socketed into it is Flesh Offering. Flesh Offering is essentially a skill that allows us to periodically, again, rally up our minions, boost their damage temporarily by sacrificing some corpses nearby. So you will be using Flesh Offering on a regular basis, probably not when clearing maps because it doesn't matter, but on boss fights and on rare fights, on something painful, you know, especially as you start pushing towards higher edges of the Atlas mapping process, tiers 8, for this build in this current incarnation of it, you will be using Flesh Offering more often than you think. Tempest Shield is a great underrated skill that I don't use often enough in my other builds, but in this case, when you're running with a shield, first of all, it reflects quite a bit of lightning damage when it blocks, and secondly, it gives you immunity to shock, which is also a very good thing, but it increases quite dramatically your chance to block spells. So that in essence is actually a very, very good survivability layer for us. Super, super duper important. And in the boots, I forgot to say, we have Spectres. We are raising Spectres. Our Spectres are only used to boost the potency of our other minions. So I am running with Carnage Chieftain. I'm summoning a Carnage Chieftain. And I'm summoning also Kurai Vanguard, if I'm not mistaken. Karui Vanguard from the coast area. That Karui Vanguard is the one as per K's original build. Recommendation came from there, thank you K. Karui Vanguard summons periodically a totem. That totem shoots a fire beam basically, and that fire beam increases fire vulnerability of the enemies. That makes my minions hit stronger, which is very, very good. Minion speed support, always good. Summon Phantasm support is optional, but I personally like to have extra targets, extra minions flooding the field and distracting enemies. So Phantasms contribute to the damage, and at the same time distract enemies, flood the thing. This, if you are looking for extra, I suppose, spot to replace this with something more potent, let's say, I don't know, minion life we have, minion speed we have. If you wanted to do faster casting or something like that here, you probably could consider replacing Phantasms with that. And then Amulet is Seed Breath, increased mana regeneration rate, cold resistance, and boost to the minions. This drops so often, I don't think you will need to buy it. I think you can just find it. The other ring is just a stat reach ring. That's all it is, and it boosts my extra maximum life. Is this a perfect setup? No. But is this a lot more involved than a lot of my setups are? Yes, it is. So this is how I run it, and this is how I recommend that you run it. For bandits, you kill both bandits and you take 2 passive points toward the skill tree. For Atlas, well, Atlas we are just filling out here. For the Pantheon Gods, I am currently testing the run with Solaris, Major God. So basically, this is for boss fights to boost, to give me extra physical damage reduction while there is one enemy nearby, and 20% chance to take only half of a damage from area of effect hits, which is also powerful. Alternatively, if you feel like you're mostly swarmed and that's when you die, you could change to Lunaris, because Lunaris gives you up to 8 additional physical damage reduction for each nearby enemy, and we are often surrounded by them, so you can probably run with Lunaris. I like running with solo Ralakesh as a minor god because it reduces the physical damage over time, aka bleeding, and moving while bleeding doesn't cause you to take extra damage. So that is definitely a good thing in my opinion. And this is it, my friends. That's all there is to know about this very casual, friendly, beginner-friendly build that starts becoming fun and grows and grows and grows very linearly throughout the campaign and as you level, as you enter the maps. I think it's very easy to follow, it's easier to build, it's easier to survive with, it's easier to stay back and let your minions do the dirty work while you continue summoning Raging Spirits. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions of how to improve this build, as long as they're not trolly, please leave the comment down below and enjoy the build. Otherwise, I will add Path of Building link as well as related screenshots, not as much of a write-up as I did for the previously attempted kind of build summary for you in the past. I will rely on passive skill tree, in this case in the POB and in the screenshot included, and write-up of the masteries. If you have questions, they're welcome. Otherwise, enjoy the build and I'll be speaking with you next time about something else Path of Exile related. See you later. Bye for now.